In this video then guys, we shall be taking a look at the 1990 hit Christmas movie Home Alone. So without further ado, let's get into this review. So for me then, Home Alone is one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time, and for the right reasons, because this is a movie we all sit down and watch around at Christmas, and especially myself, in which watches this one maybe sometimes twice in Christmas because it's that damn good. And it's one of the only movies that cultivates like the whole world, because at least once a year everyone will sit down and watch Home Alone 1, at least Home Alone 1. I like to watch Home Alone 2 and 3, personal preference, but it's a movie that's one of the greatest because of that reason. It's a movie that you prioritise around Christmas and make sure that you find time to watch at least Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2. Not many movies are at that style or at that calibre, in my personal opinion. Also, more onto the story now. I think that Kevin's character development in this particular movie is exceptional. As in this movie, we see at the start that he's loving life, that he's been left home alone. And I just want to go into how he was left home alone a little bit as well, because really this loudmouth yob is basically missing and you somehow don't notice him. Sorry, I'm pretty sure you would know if that annoying little shit is missing. Let's be honest here. But either way, the annoying little shit gets left home, and he at the start is very not scared yet. He's just excited that he's got the house to himself and loves it, how he finally gets to be home alone and that nobody's there with him and that his wish came true. However, that suddenly changes when he starts to feel a bit scared when he sees the burglars hanging around his house and fears the guy next door as well several times. And there's several scenarios where he jumps under the bed, like when the police officer knocks on the door and he jumps under his bed like, you know, a wuss. But that suddenly changes in him as he starts to leave the house more, go shopping, even though he does get freaked out in the shop with the toothbrush as his next door neighbour, who has this story about him that he killed all these people and whatever, and Buzz tells it at the start of the movie, and he sort of freaks Kevin out when he's in the shop with him like, oh, and all that shit. But either way, Kevin runs out the shop and runs back home and practically gets done for shoplifting. However, again, there's another scenario with character development, as he's still in that scared sort of aspect of things, but then that's what shapes him up into being who he needs to be to defend his house, which is brave and courageous. And he does this on several scenarios, and he sort of builds himself up throughout this movie as we see him starting to mess around with the burglars a little bit with the firecrackers when he turns on the telly, when he orders a pizza and stuff. He's sort of preparing himself in that sort of mould, and that works. It scares the burglars off, and that's what gives Kevin the courage to go on and defend his house, because he can build himself up, and that's what he does at the end of the movie. He becomes courageous and strong rather than his counterpart at the beginning of the movie, which is sort of weak, scared individual, which is just there to have a laugh really and didn't really expect to be in this scenario, whereas when he's in the scenario, he thrives at it and he challenges them to sort of protecting his house and defeating these absolute antagonists with style. And now it's so iconic the way in which he takes down the villains by setting sort of like booby traps and sort of tricks and pranks on them really, which is just hilariously funny. And that sort of stuff pops up in your mind every time you think of Home Alone, because that's just nostalgia for you and a key moment in all Christmas movies where you go, that's a key moment, that's a key moment. For this one, it's the traps at the end, and that's what you watch Home Alone for. You can see all the build-up at the beginning and whatever, but it's always, you look forward to that last 20 minutes or so. Don't know how long it lasts, but that last 20 minutes or so where it's the big battle, the plan that he's put together throughout the whole entire movie. Also, John Hughes is the brilliant mind behind all of this, because just think about it. The amount of times we watch Home Alone and think, those two should be dead. And even not in this movie, the second movie as well. And you're thinking, those two guys should have been dead after the first hit. And that is similar in this scenario, as we see the likes of Marv stand on a nail and walk it off, like, obviously hobbling a little bit, but you'd be fucking in agony. Let's not pretend you wouldn't be, because you absolutely would be. and Harry gets his head blowtorched and set afire, in which he acts like it's just a natural burn, and I'm pretty sure you would be scalped. And that's what John Hughes does. He makes something that is realistic in this respect and makes it like a cartoon, but mixes them both together. And what I mean by cartoon is, if you ever, as a kid, watched Roadrunner, your Looney Tunes, your Tom and Jerry's, those sorts of styles where about they get beaten to shit and they're like got these big lumps on the heads and stuff from all these bangs and stuff, but they never get killed. That is exactly. Look at Wile Coyote, gets blown up practically every episode, but comes back in the next one. That's really what Home Alone did, and not in that severity of being blown up. Maybe the second one, but in this one, nobody gets blown up. But what I'm trying to say is that that same impact is put into a live action sort of way. As obviously, like we mentioned, some guy stands on nails, some guy gets blowtorched to the head, some guy gets branded, some guy gets hit with a crowbar, and they're walking it off like it's nothing. It's that cartoony aspect in which John Hughes mashes together with the normal, realistic story of a kid getting left home alone, and that is the brilliance of Home Alone. That is the brilliance of John Hughes, as Harry and Marv go through hell. However, they're still alive, even though they get hit with paint cans, and the rest of it is all history. But I mean, it's entertaining to watch. And the way that John Hughes does it as well is that he does not include blood, in which makes it kid friendly. And that's why I compare it to likes of your Roadrunners and your Looney Tunes and even your Tom and Jerry's. You do not see blood. You just see a massive lump on the head, or you see him like wrapped in bandages with Tweety pies around the head. That's basically what they did in this, minus the Tweety pies, even though it would have been cool to see in this scenario. But it was that same sort of aspect. They would get knocked unconscious, then get back up and roll it off like it was nothing. Yeah, it just makes this movie a family favourite, and so different from every other Christmas movie you watch, which is all Santa this and all Santa that. This is pure violence, but in a funny kid aspect. I also want to talk about, and it's hard not to mention, the two villains in this. As much as I like to praise Kevin and Macauley Culkin, I think the main guy in all of this, the main two guys that is Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci, as they had great on-screen chemistry, and he's one of the most formidable duos that we've seen in movies, as they were so comedic, so together on screen that you couldn't have replaced them if you tried. You couldn't pick the perfect villains, and if you tried to, you would think of Joe Pesci and you would think of Daniel Stern as the perfect two to play Harry and Marv, these two crooks, these two wet bandits, in which did their job, basically, did their job phenomenally. And Joe Pesci is seen as quite a tough guy in most of these gangster style of movies like Goodfellas and things like that, and Heads in a Duffel Bag. He's seen as quite this tough guy sort of persona, and when you step into this sort of role, it's straight up his trouser really as that tough guy, but he's still presented as a tough guy, but gets taken down by a kid, and we just see that it works phenomenally. And obviously Daniel Stern, which was new to me at the time, he just did exactly what needed to be done. Just be kind of stupid, or kind of be the thicker one out the two, as Joe Pesci is seen as sort of the wise guy, the smart one, the one that's planning everything, and Daniel Stern's just there to help fill out the job. And then these two just make the perfect duo. Moving on though, I think that the cast as a whole were phenomenal, as we saw the likes of Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, Catherine O'Hara, these sorts of people, John Hurd, and the list goes on and on. Like we see Gerry Bamman, John Candy, for instance. It just goes on and on and on. And there's plenty of big names in this particular movie, and all of these people contribute massively to the success of Home Alone, and without one of them, this movie could have crumbled easily. And to me, that just shows how iconic this movie is and how big this movie actually is, that the whole cast came together and created a masterpiece from start to finish. And that's why Home Alone is one of the greatest movies of all time, in my opinion, as the casting was cock hot, and nobody could have been replaced in my personal opinion. To summarize this iconic movie then, this to me is a 9.3 out of 10 and a legendary film. So let me know down in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this particular movie, and also if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to be alerted to all the new content this channel creates. And if you haven't already, go check out the description to see more videos just like this one, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Laters.